All right, everybody, welcome again. Another tutorial session of mine. This is a pre-recorded. This is not a Twitch stream, so welcome. I am Jude Inc., a thorn for your heart. And today I am going to remake one of my older tutorials that I've done, and this is a very basic one for beginners. This is essentially how to set up your startup file and your startup scene for modding for Neverwinter Nights 2. Again, I wrote this in the Discord yesterday. The way I do my setup is just how I do mine. It's not the method, it's a method. Once you get more used to how you do your own things and how you kind of create your own mods, my methods can go out the window. And I just hope that I was able to kind of show you some way to start up, or if it helps in some way. But all in all, hopefully this helps anybody watching to kind of get you familiar with Blender as far as setting up the startup scene. And like I said, this is the way I do this, so I'm just going to share that with you. So we'll just jump right into it. This should be a quick tutorial. All right. So I already have my setup scene startup like this. When I start up my Blender, it kind of starts up just like this. Now, normally it doesn't. If you're starting new with Blender and setting up your scene for the first time, usually you have your camera and you have that little block that always gets deleted. That camera always gets deleted, and sometimes it gets annoying to have to keep redoing that. Well, there's a way to get around that, and there's a way to set up a scene so that way every time you start up Blender, it starts up exactly the same way, especially if you're continuously working the same elements in the same sort of files and modding style. You want to kind of create different scenes or startup scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and reset my settings right here on my Blender. I'm going to go to file. I'm just going to go to defaults and load my factory settings. Oops, gotta make sure I click that. Defaults, load factory settings. It's going to say load factory settings. Okay, click that. And it's going to load just like this. So now when I close out my Blender and I reopen my Blender, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that right now, actually. So I'm going to open up Blender. And when I do that, what's going to happen is I'm going to load up that initial startup scene. Obviously, mine didn't do it for some reason because I did not save. So let me load factory defaults. And then let me go to file and then go to defaults, save startup scene. And then now I have this saved as my startup scene, just like a regular Blender would open. So let me reopen that one more time and show you what I mean. So now that I've saved that as my startup scene, it should open up just like that. And this is how Blender opens up. Normally, if you're opening up Blender, no matter what version you get, this is the startup scene. It gives you one cube to practice with, one camera to practice with, and you can view through that camera by pressing 0, and then one light to practice with. And this is good for setting up, you know, your if you just want to practice around and move some stuff so you can test things out, maybe view from the camera and get used to the tools. It's a good little practice tool to start off with. All right, but we don't need all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead once again, restart my Blender, and show you how to set up a startup file with your Blender to get ready to mod for Neverwinter Nights 2. It's the way I do it. Like I said, I'm going to do it how I have my startup file. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up Blender. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all three of these and just hit X. Right here, if I hit X here, it deletes. If I come into the 3D workspace and I hit X, it's going to give me the option to delete, into which I press delete. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load up my plugin, because I want to load a Neverwinter Nights 2 model in and explain why I'm setting up my scene a certain way. If I just start setting up the scene and then explain, it's probably going to confuse you. So first, let me go ahead and load up a Neverwinter Nights 2 file. But before we get into that, let me show you where those files are at. So if you're completely new and you're just pulling in your first model into Blender, your models are actually tucked away into your file directory or your game directory where you installed the game. So if you got this on Steam like I did a long time ago, you have this tucked away in your Steam library. If you order this or bought this off GOG, Good Old Games, then you'll find this under your My Documents or wherever the GOG My Games is installed. So there's two directories in which you'll find it. So you'll have to hunt for the one of which you installed it with. Okay. So in this case, I have it loaded right here. I have it under C, Program Files 86, Steam Apps, Common, Neverwinter Nights 2, Data. All right. And so in that folder, you have in your data folder. So if you're on GOG, you'll have the same structure right here. You'll go to Data. All right. And in that data folder, you have all of these zip files. These zip files are essentially all of the models, the textures, the scripts, everything that's pretty much made compiled of this game other than the engine and things like that. But this is where you'll pull all your assets from, where you can begin modding. All right. So the one I'm going to tell you to pull if you're setting this up is go ahead and scroll down to the one called Neverwinter Nights 2 models. All right. So I'm going to open up that zip file and I'm going to open up that folder inside it. And you're going to have all of these models to work with. Now that's a lot of models. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly search for the model I want up here. I'm going to load up a basic male and female model. All right. And now you can do a blend file for each one, but I'm going to do them both and show you how to save out at the end, one for a male and one for a female. Now, this is just one startup file. You can create numerous startup files. If you want to make one for helmet making, if you want to make one for sword making, just different startup files, you can do that. All right. But right now we're just going to focus on setting up blend files that you can keep coming to and reusing when creating new elements or new mods. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the human male and the human female body, cloth body 01. So I'm going to type in P, okay? And I'm going to type in space, and I'm going to type in HH for human, all right? M for male, all right? I'm going to type in space, CL for cloth, all right? And I'm going to look for body 01. Now I can type that in too if I want to, space body 01. And we're going to pull this file, go ahead and grab it. I'm going to hit Control C, or you can come up here and just hit copy. All right. If you're using Windows 11. All right. Or you can just drag it on over to your working directory. I created a working directory called Scene Setup Tutorial. It's in my override. You can place this in any folder you want. I'm just using this as my working folder right now. All right. So after I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and come back a notch, bring it back, go back into the folder and type in P space HH for human, F for female, hit space again, and type in CL for cloth, and then BODY for body 01, slot 1. All right. Now there is a link that I'll provide in the description of this tutorial explaining, it'll explain how to read these models properly, their naming system. Okay. So I'll provide that in the link with this YouTube video. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that again, copy that, come over here and paste that into here. And now we have the female human body 1 and the male body 1. Now I'm just going to load this in because I don't want to confuse you and tell you to load the boots and everything else. This is going to be pretty simple. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and install my plugin. All right. Now this is the plugin you want to use. I will provide a link to this plugin. This is Freshlook's tools. Freshlook is the creator of the plugin that allows you to import MDBs and allows you to export MDBs and GR2s. Import GR2s, which are the animation or the bone files, the bones, the elements for the bones, and the armatures, and the MDBs, which is the container for the 3D asset, the mesh. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and provide that in the link below in this description too of this YouTube video, so you can download that and install it. So once you download that, place that into any folder you want, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install that. All right. So before we can import the meshes that we just put into this folder, we're going to have to install this plugin. All right. So go to Edit, go to Preferences, center this right here. I'm going to delete the add-on I have right now. Okay. So I'm going to go type in the add-on. For me, it's here. I'm going to go ahead and select it. I'm going to remove it. All right, because I'm using a different version for this one for a plugin that I'm using for another project. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to install. I'm going to go to my working directory in which I created here called Scene Setup File. Go to wherever you placed it. It could be in your downloads folder, wherever you want. Go there, double click, or just click once, select it, and click Install Add-on. And then it's going to pop up right here. If it doesn't pop up, simply type in Neverwinter Nights, and it's going to allow you to install this add-on that will allow you to open up MDB and GR2 files. All right. So you're going to click this little button, this little box here to activate it. Then you're going to come down here to this, these little bar here, and you're going to click Save Preferences. Okay. save preferences, and then you're going to close that. Now if you go to file and go to import, you're going to see down here you'll have it called Neverwinter Nights 2 MDB. If you see things on mine that are a little bit different, it's because I have other add-ons installed, but we'll get to that at another time when we do actually start exploring XPS files and some of these other things that allow you to use, that I use to create Neverwinter Nights 2 mods. All right, but right now we have this one now installed, so now we can go ahead and go to file, import, go to your working directory, which mine where I placed my meshes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and install or import the PHHMCL body 01 and click import. All right, now as I told you, I wanted to import the mesh first before I start moving my camera around to set up my startup scene, and the reason being is I want to explain this to you. Now when I come in here and I navigate around, this is considered the front view. On your number pad, if you hit 1, you can view this from the front view. All right, if you hit control 1, you can view from the back view. All right, and if you mess around, experiment with your keys, your numbers, if you press 3, you can view it from the right side. If you press 4, you can twist it around. All right, we won't touch 5 yet. 6 will twist around the other way. 7 will show it from the top. 8 will twist up and down, just like 2 will. So if you look at 8 and 2, they kind of go over like this. All right. If you do 4 and 6, you twist left and right. Okay. If you do 1, that's the back view. 3 is the right view. 7 is the top. Now, what if I want to do the bottom? Well, go to 7 and then press 9. 9 will automatically flip the camera around to whatever you're already viewing. If I'm viewing it at this angle and I want to view it from the other angle, exactly opposite, I'm going to press 9. All right. If you hear a horn in the background, it's because I live in San Francisco and this street is extremely busy and very annoying. And you'll hear that often. So hopefully that's not too loud on you. All right. So if I press 1, I'm viewing it from the back view. All right. Now that's odd. I'm viewing it from the front view. I'm sorry. It's odd that I'm viewing this from the front view, yet the model's facing backwards. Now you have to wonder, why is that? You know, and it's because Neverwinter Nights 2 models by default face backwards, face -Z. So they're facing the opposite direction. Most video games will have the model facing forward, but these models were created facing backwards. That's fine. It's not the biggest issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control 1 to face backwards, face from the back. And this is the front of the model here. Now, I recommend you do not work in this mode. See how the camera has this perspective going? I don't like working in this mode, especially when you're doing modeling or when you're doing the things. Most of my mods, seldom do I work in this mode unless I really need to get in there to view something. This mode will allow you to view certain angles and certain things, but I don't like this mode. All right. So what I normally press is 5 on the keypad, and that will give us into a orthographic view. So if you press 5 back and forth, you have perspective mode. Then you have orthographic view. Orthographic view will allow you to view this in absolutes. All right. So you can view this. Now, if I press Control 1, I'm viewing it straight on with no perception or no perspective. It's straight on. So why is this important? It's because when we do modeling and when we measure things out, we want to make sure that we even out and that we're viewing at a straight, flat rate. So that way, when we model one side, we can see the other side. And that's where these little rulers come in handy. These measurements, these little squares here, that's where that comes in handy for us. So that helps us out a lot. All right. So I recommend using orthographic. You don't have to. It's just my recommendation, and it's how I do my things. Okay. So just like that, I'm going to go ahead and keep that right there. And then, so I know I usually use Blender a lot for Neverwinter Nights 2. All right. So by default, I want to set my Blender startup scene to not have that cube, not have that camera, not have that light. And I want to set it up to where whenever I start up Blender, I'm at this angle. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete all of this. This is just a reference. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit X and delete everything in here. Hit X again. And now it's completely empty. Now what I'm going to do is I want to save this startup scene. So this is always going to be how, whenever I start up Blender, it's going to be at this angle, this perspective, and just like this, no block, no camera, and no light. All right. So to save that, what I'm going to do is go to File. I'm going to go to Defaults, Save Startup File, and it's going to prompt you, make the current file the default .blend file. You're going to put Save Startup File. All right. And now you're done. Every time you open up Blender, you're going to open up to this exactly. Why is this important? Especially if you're only using it for modding or you're learning a lot of Neverwinter Nights 2 modding. This is going to save you a few seconds, but it can get annoying after modding so long to have to delete everything, to kind of zoom in, get this camera set up and everything like that. It saves you some time, but also it just increases productivity and workflow, which in doing any of this stuff, workflow is key. Getting things to be faster, more efficient, and getting your work done so you're not sitting here for hours on end trying to get one thing done. It helps a lot. It comes in handy, especially with all the content I've created. Now, not trying to toot my own horn, I have created over 400, maybe 500 outfits for this game. Helmets, shields, weapons. I'm telling you right now, the more you do this, the more you're going to be happy to have set up your startup file because it's so repetitive. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close up my Blender and restart it. I'm not going to save. I'm going to restart my Blender now, and it should start up with that startup file in mind already. So it's loaded into the cache. And as you can see here, we have our startup scene set. So every time I start up Blender, I'm going to get into modding. It starts right here. So hopefully that helps you a lot. All right. So we'll call that part 1. Now we're going to dive into part 2. We're going to create a blend scene, and we're going to save out the scene and use that as a template for doing anything creative with a body model. So I'm going to show you how to do that and how I do that. And it's like I said, this is my method. You don't have to use it, but I hope it helps. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to load up that male body. So I'm going to go to Import, Neverwinter Nights 2, go to that scene and load up the male body. All right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this. I'm going to set this in a position where I can save this out as for future, for some of the future things that I plan to do. Now, I'm not going to get too creative with this because there is a way I set this whenever I want to start, converting meshes over, converting outfits from other games and asset flips. There's a way I set this, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to leave it simple because when I do the tutorial for how to convert a mesh or flip an asset from another game, we're going to use a different plugin for that, but I'm also going to show you how to set up the blend files template for that works best for the way that I do it. Again, the way that I do it. That's just how I do. Okay. So what we want to do here is we're going to go ahead and polish this up a little bit so that way when we open this file, this blend file, it's cleaned up already. We don't have to keep doing the same things over and over, just like we did with the startup file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. See my calls, these little boxes. Now these stay here and we don't ever touch these. We leave them alone. So to save yourself some time, let's go ahead and hide them all. So you can drop this down here and turn off all of them by selecting this little eyeball. Or alternatively, thanks to Freshlook who told me this, you can hold down Shift and just click the actual root or the actual parent of it all right here, and just click it with Shift, and it turns off everything inside of that directory of this hierarchy. All right, and then we open up the skeleton now, and we see that the skeleton, which is here, it's parented and its children are these 3 items. What I want to do is delete the LODs because this is only going to serve as a reference file. Because whenever I start modding, I want to be able to just come in and reference this. I don't need these extra stuff in the way because we're not going to use these on our export unless you plan to for whatever reason you're doing something. But in this case, we don't really need it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit X and delete those. This is all I want because I'm going to use this for reference another time. So when I say reference, it's like, let's say I want to create a belt and I don't want to have to go through, import this, hide the calls, delete the LODs, and then set this all up again. I just want to open up a blend file and bam, this is already set up right here. I can start working on creating my belt. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and save this as a template. Now, that may sound fancy, but it's nothing more than just saving the file. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Save As. All right. I'm going to go to my scene setup file and call this whatever. You can even call it PHHMCL body 01, or you can just something that refers to what you want. Vanilla startup, vanilla male cloth body. Okay. And I can just name it that and put save as. And then when I close out Blender, and let's say I'm like, okay, I want to do something. I want to create something for the male. It could be a belt. It could be a shoulder piece. It could be an outfit, whatever you want to do. All I have to do now is go into here and put this, and I'd recommend creating a folder called templates. Okay. Or templates. Nah, I forgot the S there. All right. So create templates, drag this into it, and put that as your template. So when I go into my templates, I'm like, where do I want to start? Now you could have 20 of these by the time you're done, just different startup files. I'm going to go ahead and double click that and open it up, and bam, we should be right. No, I said bam right before the thing showed up, but bam, we should be ready to start, and we can start working with it here. So if I want to close that out and hit save again, I can do that. If I want to hide the skeleton and just have the body, I can save that now template. And so if I were to leave it and come back in, all right, and load up that template again, it's not going to have the skeleton. So it's whatever preference you have. Now, if you want to clean it up first, you can do that, but I'm not going to do that this time around. Now that I've done that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do the following. I'm going to go ahead and close out my Blender. I'm going to do the same exact thing for the female. And let's do that a little bit faster this time. And I'm going to show you just how quick it is to make this. All right. So what I'm going to do, once again, go to File, Import, Neverwinter Nights 2. Going to go to my folder and import the female cloth body 01 now. Hit Import. And this is the female cloth body 01. I'm going to go ahead and hold down spacebar and click this little eyeball here. Open up this parent root, delete these two LODs, hit X. All right. I'm going to turn off the skeleton. I'm going to collapse this. And what I'm going to do is go to File, Save As. All right. Click this name to borrow its name and change it from vanilla male to vanilla female cloth body. All right. Save as. And now we're done. Close that out. And now we have another template made. You can do the same thing for the dwarf. Male, dwarf female, gnome male, gnome female, so forth. I don't want to name every single race, but essentially that's what you can do. Now, that is how you set up templates. And I recommend this. This is just my tips and tricks. I recommend you create these because this will help you. If you know what you want to make, this will help you get into that. Now, like I said, when I do the mesh conversion and when I do an asset flip, body armor asset flip, which I plan to do very soon, that's going to cover creating a template in a different style, a different format, which I'll explain as I do. All right. So coming back into this, I just want to show you some more little tricks that I do that will help you, I feel. All right. So if you're planning to mess around with this body, okay, there's a few things that you may want to do. You may want to hit Alt J to turn this into quads. Because if you're going to model from the original body, you want to model in quads, not tris. All right. Tris are for video game production. Usually you want to convert to tris before you export. But if you hit Control J, this little box pops up down here, tris to quads. And you want to make sure you click all of these, highlight all of those. And that will ensure that your UVs don't get messed up as you do that along the way. That's the very simplest way to put that. There's a more technical explanation, but I'm not going to explain all that. Just if you highlight those, you're safe. Okay. And you won't mess up things. And now that you're in quads, what you can do is another trick you can do is go to mesh, go to cleanup, and you want to merge by distance. In older versions of Blenders, this is called remove doubles. Now, what are doubles? We won't get into that right now. But usually, if you're having some issues with the mesh not looking right, you can merge by distance. Now, that's going to cause an issue right here with this model itself because some of these normals are actually really, really close. So, even though I'm showing you that, I really wouldn't recommend doing that here. Those are just some of the tricks in case you're working with my older tutorials where I show you remove doubles. That's where it's at now. If you go to mesh and you go to you go to, sorry, I'm not even thinking straight. You go to edge. Hold on. I'm sorry. So of divide, let me see. My brain just went right now. So I'm going to go to mesh and I'm going to go to cleanup. Merge by distance. All right. Now, the reason I say convert this into quads is because I always tend to do that whenever I'm modding. My tricks, there's something, my tips, not tricks, because not really a trick, but it's something that I do often because it helps me get a more cleaner mesh. And when I transfer weights, it transfers better. And I just find overall working in quads is a lot easier than working with tris. All right. And so, yeah, so that was just one thing I wanted to show you. I won't go into explaining all of this stuff because all of these things are more, I don't want to confuse you for this demo startup file. All right. So actually, I'm just going to call it there. That's a simple tutorial. I just wanted to show you how to set up a scene, how to set up your startup file, how to save that, and create your quick templates. Now, like I said, when I get into the helmet one, I'm going to show you how to set up that helmet template. So usually when I start this, I'm going to say, I'm either going to provide you a blend file that has the template already. In my description, I'll probably put the file in there and say, here's the file. You don't have to worry about, just grab it, take it, use it. I'm using Blender 3.6. So if you're using a different one, it may have a different setup, different startup. But when I do my tutorials, I want to provide you the Blender startup file, because some of them will have double windows. They'll have a UV editor open. Maybe some of them will have a triple window, and they'll have a shader compositor open. Shader editor here, and because it's going to be easy for you to kind of jump into it and navigate without having to do all the things that I'd be doing here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the file there, or stop the video here, and say thank you for watching. I appreciate you for watching. I know I'm not looking for 1 million subscribers or 1 million viewers. I'm not looking for thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm just trying to pass some knowledge around. So this was something that got asked to kind of, it helped some of the people that I worked with in the past, or I still work with actually. And it was one of the requested ones. So hopefully this wasn't too much of a waste of time for you. And hopefully this helped you kind of navigate through some of the startup scenes and stuff like that. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign off now, and I'm going to go ahead and see you on the next tutorial. All right, everybody. Bye.